I did. But he's still number 3. So why can't Drew Brees, as he's getting up in age, be number 1? I'll tell you why. There's no reason why he can't. Drew Brees had another 50 touchdown season. He's coming off of a record-breaking year with passing yards. He has shown that he can do pretty much anything and everything inside and outside the pocket. He's not a running guy. But name for me a great, passing quarterback that could do it with his legs other than Patrick Mahomes and Michael Vick. This is a guy that can do pretty much anything you ask him. He's a veteran at leading his offense. He's a veteran at leading his entire team in terms of game plan. He works great with his head coach. He's a leader on and off the field. Teams want him because not only because he can throw some crazy passes, not only because he can have game-winning drives, not only because he dominates the offensive side of the ball, he keeps the other team from getting on the field offensively. This is a guy that people want because of his poise. He works exceptionally well under pressure. He knows how to win games in any situation you throw at him. He has a extremely high football IQ, second to only Tom Brady, I'm afraid. But his football IQ is ridiculous, and so that's why this guy's got to be number 1. He's gonna have another year with some great weapons. So I think the Saints can do some great things. I think they'll go into the playoffs this year just like they did last year, and they hopefully will finish it off with the Super Bowl. And I think that'll be a great way to end Drew Brees' career. For sure, Hall of Famers. I think all of these guys have the potential. I think everyone except for maybe Dak Prescott and Patrick Mahomes, looking 10 years down the line, will get into the Hall of Fame. No problem with that. Let me know how you feel about these top 5. Of course, you know how to reach me. So yeah, just let me know how you feel. If you have a differing opinion, if you think I got it, let me know how I did. But yeah, so that was fun. I think next week we'll do quarterbacks, the top 5 for college coming up next year, which will be way more difficult. There's so many different factors you got to include in that list, and it'll be interesting nonetheless. We got some other stuff that we got to talk about. Speaking of NFL quarterbacks, okay, so this is a rumor. It doesn't really have much weight to it, but it is always a possibility. The Jets head coach Adam Gase and CEO Chris Johnson are looking for a new general manager. The Jets need a spark in their team. They haven't been anything great. The best news out of New York is that the Jets got new uniforms, really, and even at that, the uniforms aren't great in my opinion. Let me know how you feel about that. There's some that I like. I don't know. I'm still on the fence about the Jets' new uniforms. I'm not too sure how I feel about that completely, but we'll see. We'll see how they look on the field. You never know. They're looking for a new general manager. They're looking for a guy, as any team would, with game experience. They're looking for a guy with outstanding football IQ. They're looking for a guy who knows situational football, who knows what a team should be looking for, who knows what draft picks to pick up, who knows what needs to be done with the entire franchise. This is a huge position, and I'll give you 5 seconds to guess who it is. Okay, here we go. If you guessed Peyton Manning, you're correct. They're looking at Peyton Manning for this job. This guy's been out of retirement for a while, doesn't know what to do with himself. He's doing Allstate commercials. Or is it Allstate commercials? I'm not too sure. Fact check it for me. He's doing some great things. To have an opportunity to work for the Jets with a guy who he's already worked with, Adam Gase, would be amazing. It would be fantastic for him to do that. I think he'd be great for the job. He has everything that a team looking for a general manager would be looking for. Game experience. He knows what a team needs. He knows what what a franchise needs in a team. He knows what a good quarterback looks like. He is a good quarterback. He's a Hall of Fame quarterback. He knows what a defense should be looking for. He's played against every great defense in my lifetime. So I think definitely Peyton Manning would be good for the job. It's just a rumor. We're not 100% certain on that. Nonetheless, we'll keep you updated if anything happens. So tune in next week to find out. And it might not be next week. Who knows when the decision will be made. But calls are being made back and forth between them. It'd be a great fit. It'll keep Peyton Manning in football. He loves football. He might not be a great announcer like Tony Romo, but it'll keep him in the game. Speaking of which, we mentioned it last week. Tony Romo is playing golf. Shot a 74 at the PGA Tour, got cut, which is just showing you how insane the PGA Tour cut is. But I hope he does well next season. I hope he keeps playing golf. I'm trying to get into golf, you know what I mean? So I'm watching a little bit more golf here and there. Now, moving on to the college football arena. Historic contracts are being signed. Now, let's turn the clocks back on the podcast, months. Me and Nico were talking about Nick Saban and when he would retire. What would happen? What would become of Alabama when Nick Saban retires? And I think we both came to a general consensus, as did everyone in college football that knows anything about Alabama. They came to the consensus that Dabo Swinney would take the role as head coach of Alabama. He would leave Clemson and he would join back to where it all started at Alabama. Of course, he was a walk-on wide receiver there. He started his coaching career there, and he moved to Clemson and has been coaching there for 11 years now. Didn't do anything terrible, obviously. As we know, he has a 116-30 record at Clemson over the 11 years. And just yesterday, of course, this episode will come out, maybe later tonight. So, the 16th or the 17th, depending on when it comes out, Dabo Swinney has signed a record contract for head coaches in college football for all eternity. We're talking about a 10-year, $93 million contract with Clemson. He's 49 years old. And do the math, he would be 59 years old. He'd be almost in his 60s when this contract is over. Now, Nick Saban is in his 60s, so this doesn't necessarily mean that Dabo Swinney can't become the head coach of Alabama when Nick Saban retires. It doesn't mean that at all. But the window is cut exponentially shorter when you go and sign a contract that huge. Now, just to put it into perspective, Nick Saban signed a contract a couple years back that ends in 2025. And actually, it was revised in 2017. But nonetheless, he will make $8.3 million for the past season, which is insane. It's a 12-year contract, which means he will be making $99 million. So let's just call it $100 million over 12 seasons. And that's at the high. That's if he makes, the playoffs, he wins the playoffs, he goes to the national championship. The low for him is $7.2 million, which means he'll be making $86 million over the 12-year contract that will end in 2025. So that puts it into perspective. Dabo Swinney's going to be making more money guaranteed, even if he doesn't even make the playoffs. And that's not including amenities. He has all the stuff that coaches love to get. That's like golf club usage, free membership to any country club. He gets private jet use. He gets box seats for him and his family. He gets all that stuff. He gets bonuses for finishing a season at a certain rank. He'll get bonuses including the national championship again. He'll get bonuses including playoff appearances, playoff wins, just like Nick Saban. Nonetheless, he'll get more money guaranteed over less years. 2 years down from Nick Saban. He's making that much more money. It starts to pile on when you have one of the best teams in all of college football at Clemson. Wow, it's ridiculous. It is insane to think that a coach will be making that much money. And I don't even want to start the should players get paid debate. If you want me to have that conversation, I will. Let me know. But he is the highest paid coach to date, ever. Like for all time, ever. Which is insane. So that's a record-breaking contract that potentially could put his name out of the conversation as the person to take up Saban's mantle. It could possibly do that. Now, Nick Saban has a 141-21 record. That's insane. He's only lost 21 games since he's been at Alabama. What was it? Yeah, I think he came in like 2006 or 2007. Correct me. It's one of those years. He's only lost 21 games. Insane. And 141 wins and 5 national championships, not including the one that he won over at LSU. But that's an insane record. I think Saban's still the greatest coach. Just because someone gets paid so much money doesn't mean that they're the greatest coach ever. Because Saban is by far still the greatest coach of all time in college football. Of course, you got Bear Bryant, who you can't leave out of the conversation. But Dabo Swinney, to date, who's coaching now, is the second best coach of all time, and we've seen that play out over the last 5 or 6 years. So that might put him out of the conversation here, which would be interesting. It's still possible. It's still a possibility. I mean, how could a guy that played as a walk-on wide receiver at Alabama, did some good things there, and then started his coaching at Alabama for like 9 years, maybe 7 or 9 years, something like that. Almost spent a decade at Alabama coaching his career, starting his career. You got to give credence to that. How could you not? Ultimately, it's Dabo's decision. I mean, he seems to be all invested in Clemson. He said when the contract was being signed, hopefully my name doesn't come up in this conversation anymore, which kind of hurts a little bit. Kind of hurts a little bit. I would like to see him be the coach after Saban retires. I think that'd be a great thing for Alabama. It'd be a great thing for Dabo Swinney. And I think Clemson, hopefully 10 years down the line, will still have a great team, and they'll have a good coach to back them up. I don't know. We'll see. So tune in 10 years from now when we're talking about this again. But yeah, record-breaking contract for Dabo Swinney and for college football in all time. In other SEC West news, Penn State's quarterback Tommy Stevens will transfer to Mississippi State. Now listen, this is an important point to make because, number one, Trace McSorley was a phenomenon at Penn State. Maybe not last year, but he still has great quarterback potential that a lot of people didn't really talk about. I mean, I talked about it going into last season because, he had this great season. He was a star. And now, looking back, I don't really know why a lot of people didn't talk about this, but last year's senior night for Penn State, it was a morning game, I get it. But there was like 11,000 people or like 12,000 people that showed up to that game. Something along those lines. I don't know if that's the exact number, but it was a small amount of people showing up to this guy's senior game. And, it's like, this guy did great things for you, and you didn't even show up to his senior game? What's going on? What's going on here? Anyway, in spring training this season, Stevens didn't really get a lot of playing time, so he said, look, I'm a fifth-year senior. I got to go play for a team that wants me to play, where I have potential to play. And he's going to join Joe Moorhead at Mississippi State. How could you not? You've played with this guy, played for this guy before. You have experience with him. And so you're going to go back to him. You got to go back to him. You're comfortable with him. It's a time where you shouldn't go and start over when you're a fifth-year senior with a whole new whole new offensive coordinator or head coach, you got to go with a guy that you're familiar with. And for Stevens, that's going back to Joe Moore.